Hi guys, it's Amy and welcome to the channel, or welcome back. I hope that you're doing well. Let me know how you're doing in the comments. And obviously, if you have been around, I am not in my usual space. And if you're new here, the news is I moved. So I have been away for the past few weeks and it has been a pretty stressful time recently. We have moved kind of like to the next town over, and I apologize if you can hear road noise, but we moved to the next town over basically to be closer to where my husband works, and we were having a lot of issues with our previous place and the landlord and everything, so it's definitely good to be in a new space, and it is definitely nicer, and I am really excited to make it my own. But obviously I am surrounded by boxes right now. Every room is pretty much stacked with boxes and it's a little bit chaotic, but we are going to figure it out. But in the meantime, I figured I would show you this is real life. This is what it looks like. So I'm really excited to be back and filming and just being able to talk books with you guys. I've really missed kind of having my normal routine, and I've missed being able to chat books with you guys here on YouTube and on TikTok and everything. I kind of been lurking around, but I definitely have been busy. And I thought I would bring you my July reading wrap up, and I'm really surprised that I was able to read 6 books in the month of July just because it was so crazy. But I was listening to some audiobooks while I was packing, and I have a few romances, more than I normally have in my reading wrap up, and those were just kind of like chill and easy reads for me to listen to while I was packing and getting ready for this move. So that's the majority of what I have, but I have a pretty good, like, well-rounded reading list for you guys. So I am really excited to create book content in this new space, and I'm definitely excited to get into the books for July. So let's get to it. So first up, if you have been around, you know that summer is when I am in my pirate fantasy era. And so I read Vengeance of the Pirate Queen by Trisha Levenseller as my first book for the month of July. And this is basically like an add-on continuation in the world of Levenseller's Daughter of the Pirate King universe, world, whatever you want to call it. And this was basically going with like another character from those books. It's basically a duology, and this could be considered like a continuation. It's just with a different main character. And this is following Serinda, who is kind of like a ruthless assassin for the Pirate Queen from the previous 2 books. And the adventure that she goes on, she basically is captaining a ship and going on a quest for the Pirate Queen. And even though this was like not the most original book, I feel like a lot of it was a bit predictable. There still was like action and magic that I found wasn't predictable, and I think that made it a lot of fun. But it was also kind of like comforting to like see where things were going to go, and you just know that it's going to be like a fun time. There's definitely cutthroat action and some more like violent moments, and that is typical of this universe. So if you're wanting something that's like YA but still like has maturity to it, I would definitely consider this. But this was just a fun continuation in this universe that I really enjoy, and I really like Serinda as a character. She's kind of like tough and rough and gritty, but deep down she really like cares about people, and she's wanting to kind of make positive changes for herself. And this is definitely a crazy adventure that she goes on that definitely has some character building built into the adventure. I just really enjoyed her as a character, the dynamics with other characters that she had, and again, the magic was really interesting and really took a turn that I wasn't expecting. So this was definitely a fun pirate read, but definitely would recommend reading the duology first in order to know the different characters and understand the world. Now, I said that I read quite a few romances in the month of July, and the first one that I read was Part of Your World by Abby Jimenez. This is the second book of hers that I read. I have also read Just for the Summer, and I really loved that book. And this one was definitely a good time. I think I liked Just for the Summer a little bit better. This I gave 4 out of 5 stars. This is basically like 2 people from like different sides of the tracks, and they unintentionally have a one-night stand, and then their relationship basically blossoms from there. And it definitely had some really sweet and genuine moments of connection between the love interests. And I really loved the emotional exploration in this book, and definitely the small town vibes and atmosphere of this book. I really feel like it was well rounded in that each character had their own struggles that they were going through and then trying to come together and have a relationship, as even though those things are trying to pull them apart. And it was just it was just really sweet, and I found it really relatable at the same time. I never cry at books. Like, it is extremely rare. But this one actually made me cry. And I think it was just, I was able to relate to the female main character really well. And just seeing, like, how she was treating the male main character. And it was like, just open up your eyes and realize that things could be different. It was just something that I felt like I really related to. And I won't go too much into that. But yeah, it made me cry, and I really enjoyed this one. I'm not a huge fan of like the one night stand, like start of a relationship sort of trope, if you want to call it that. But I felt like they had a really genuine connection and the relationship built really organically. So I really enjoy that aspect of it. And I feel like all the side characters really added to the story as well. But this definitely tackles some more intense emotional things, like emotional abuse and family expectations, and definitely a lot of like healing. And there's a lot of nuance in there as well. But if like complex family dynamics and trauma, relational abuse, like or emotional abuse, things like that could be triggers for you, I don't know if I would recommend this one, but I really enjoyed it, and I'm really glad that it had kind of these grounding elements to it. I thought it was a really fun time, and I'm looking forward to reading more of Abby Jimenez's books. My next read is probably my favorite read of the month, and that is Call of the Bone Ships by R.J. Barker. This is the second book of the Tide Child trilogy, and we have been reading that with our book club over on the Fable app, The Appendix. We are reading this whole trilogy throughout the summer months, so in August we're going to be reading the third and final book. But this second book was so good. I gave this 4.5 stars, and I think I liked this more than the first one. It was getting more into kind of the magic of the world and everything, and I really enjoyed that aspect of it, but it was like coming back to this kind of found family crew of characters that I have really grown to love. And I even got my husband in on reading this book with, reading this series to kind of like catch up with me. And I am really happy about that. But I just really have enjoyed this journey with this trilogy. And it was definitely like gripping and cutthroat, and just had all the great like high seas adventures and everything. And honestly, like, I think what really stands out for me are the characters in these books. Even the like magical creatures like the Galame or the Wind Talker. He's really mysterious and creepy, but I really feel endeared to him as well. And I really loved how we explored more of the magic and yet still have like a ton of questions that are still unanswered, but I'm really excited to see where it goes. But just being able to be back with our Captain Lucky Mees and our main character Joran and just the whole crew, I just can't say enough about this series. Like, this is just like the quintessential like adult pirate fantasy. It's gritty, it definitely has its own language, and you feel like you have this secret language that you speak with the characters, and it just feels like this really immersive experience, and I just really, really love this series. So definitely excited to read the third book in August. My next three books are when I went really hardcore with the romances. I really just needed some books with some levity while I was packing and stressing about the move. So I started out with an author who I really enjoyed their book, The Good Part, but that is Sophie Cousins' Is She Really Going Out With Him? And this is a newer book by this author. And unfortunately, I think this was probably my least favorite read of the month. I just found that the book was trying to do too many things, but This basically is about like a single mom who is like navigating life, and she's a writer, and she basically has to start writing a column about dating, and in a roundabout way her kids end up being the ones that pick her dates. But I felt like the whole kind of writing the articles and uh, it was almost like trying to be like a Sex in the City type of thing, if you know what I'm talking about. The whole like dating game with the writing, the articles felt sort of useless because you could tell who the love interest was from the very beginning. And I felt like it was just trying to do too many things at once, between going on the dates and the articles, to interacting with the main love interest, to her family. It was just a lot of things. And I understand, we have multifaceted lives, but I just felt like it was doing too many things in that each element wasn't as fleshed out as I feel like it could have been, which was a little bit unfortunate. But I do feel like the banter between the main characters, the love interests, was definitely fun and flirty, and I felt like it was also very grounded. Like, they definitely were like work rivals, and it just added this kind of fun element to the book. But ultimately, I just kind of found it a little bit underwhelming, and I had really loved the previous book of hers that I had read, The Good Part, and it had a little bit more like magic realism and everything. This didn't really have that, but I just kind of found the plot trajectory kind of weak. So I gave this 3 stars. It was still a fun time, but I just personally didn't love it. My next 2 reads are actually both Emily Henry books, and I can now say that I have read all of her books. So hopefully I will be able to give you kind of a rundown of my ranking of all of her books. But I read first Beach Read, and I know people really rave about this one, and I think this was her first book. I could be wrong about that, let me know in the comments. But I really enjoyed this. It was kind of like an enemies to lovers sort of romance. It was like academic rivals, and I really enjoyed this. It had some really moving emotional elements to it, like Emily Henry's books always do. Definitely some interesting family dynamics, and it was stuff that I really related to as well, which I really enjoy. That it's like when a romance isn't just like so like outlandish that you can't really relate to it. Even though those are fun sometimes, I think having ones where you can relate to what the characters are going through, it just makes it feel that much more real, and the romance and relationships feel that much more moving. So I really enjoy that aspect of it, these emotional topics that it navigated through, of like family and different like difficult traumatic things that can happen in a family. I really enjoyed the sarcastic banter between the 2 love interests. It was really funny, and they were just so like quippy and quick-witted, but it was very like dry and sarcastic, and I really enjoy that kind of humor. So if you like that kind of humor, you probably enjoy this. And I really loved the kind of like small town summer setting of this book. It was like a river, I believe, or a lake that the beach was on, but I didn't really feel like the beach was like a big element of the book, so I thought that was kind of interesting. There was definitely some miscommunication in this, and sometimes that can be frustrating, but we just kind of roll with it because I feel like it's in a lot of romances nowadays. I enjoyed this. It wasn't necessarily my favorite Emily Henry book. I think, well, I'll tell you after my next one what my favorite is, but I gave this 3.5 stars, and I definitely enjoyed it overall. My last read for the month was the other Emily Henry book, and that is People We Meet on Vacation. And this was definitely like a messy, very slow burn friends to lovers romance. And it's like friends that met in college, and they go on vacation together every summer, but they kind of like had a falling out, and they end up planning to go on a vacation together to kind of like reunite them as friends. I really enjoyed the kind of when Harry met Sally aspect of the book, male and female friends. And it definitely had like this deep emotional undercurrent that I really enjoyed. I did find it a bit frustrating, their behavior. and the very just drawn out, like, will they, won't they aspect of the book. I feel like because they like refuse to admit their feelings for each other, they were hurting other people along the way, and I wasn't a huge fan of that aspect of it. But I do like a friends to lovers romance, and I do feel like there was some really good moments in this, but I just feel like it could have been a shorter story and not so strung out, because it was like, okay, we know they're gonna get together. This is a romance book, but we're drawing this out a little bit too long. So I really liked the, emotional topics that Henry explored in this, of like boundaries and just emotional growth. And definitely like the confusion that comes with love and navigating your relationships, especially like a friends to lovers relationships that can be really complicated. And it's definitely complicated in this book. But again, I just wasn't a huge fan of how they were kind of like hurting other people, not intentionally, but just in not wanting to really admit to themselves and to each other how they felt. So I gave this 3.5 stars. It was still a fun time, a good distraction while I was packing, but again, not my favorite Emily Henry book. So I think my favorite is probably Happy Place. Happy Place or Funny Story. And I definitely am looking forward to doing like a full ranking of all of her books. But those are all of the books that I read in the month of July. So I'm really surprised again that I read 6, being a crazy month with moving. But let me know if you've read any of these and what you thought of them. And definitely let me know your favorite reads from the month of July. I definitely, of course, enjoyed Call of the Bone Ships. I am absolutely loving that series. I was kind of reading Hunger of the Gods towards the end of the month, but just wasn't able to like sit down and read it like I wanted to during the month. I tried to listen to it, but I have a hard time listening to like higher fantasy books. Just my attention span and the way I think. But hopefully I'll be able to finish that here in the beginning of August. But those are my reads. Definitely let me know yours from July, and I will see you guys very soon. Bye!